All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a massive question today. How do we actually learn? I mean, it's something we're doing literally all the time, right? But the science behind it, well, it's got a pretty cool story.
So just think about this for a sec. Have you ever learned a new recipe or figured out how to fix something on your bike? Maybe even beat a tough video game boss, all just by watching a YouTube video or a friend. I mean, of course you have. We all do it. Well, that right there, that simple acts of watching and learning, that's got a name. It's called observational learning. And honestly, it's way more powerful than you might think. It's the core of a totally revolutionary idea in psychology, one that finally explains something fundamental about how we humans work.
Okay, so here's the plan for our explainer. We're going to start with why this idea of learning by watching was such a big missing piece. Then we'll dive into the main guy, Albert Bandura, and his modeling theory. After that, we'll break down the 4 key steps of imitation, check out Meichenbaum's awesome self-talk method, and then pull it all together to see why this stuff really matters. All right, first up, learning by watching. Before social learning theory really hit the scene, our understanding of how we learn was, well, it was kind of missing something big.
See, the older theories, think B.F. Skinner, were all about direct rewards and punishments. You know the drill. You do something, you get a cookie, or you get a timeout, and that directly shapes what you do next. But what about learning without doing? How do you explain learning something just by seeing it? There was this massive, glaring hole in the theory.
And that's exactly where social learning theory steps in. It didn't just toss out the old ideas. Instead, it built this absolutely crucial bridge. It said, yeah, rewards and punishments matter, for sure. But hey, so do our thoughts. So do the little cues we pick up. And most importantly, so does watching other people. It basically connected our actions to what's going on inside our heads.
So let's talk about Bandura's modeling theory. The main architect of this whole bridge idea? A psychologist named Albert Bandura. And trust me, his work on modeling was a total game changer.
Okay, so let's lock in a couple of key terms here. Modeling is simply the imitation of someone else's behavior. Think of it as the demonstration. Then you have observational learning, which is the bigger picture. It's learning by watching and then imitating others. So the model shows you, and the observational learning is what happens inside your brain that lets you do it too.
And this leads to one of Bandura's breakthrough ideas, what he called no-trial learning. Just think about it. Imagine trying to learn how to do a jumping jack with 0 instructions, just by flailing around until you get it right. It'd be a mess, right? But when a teacher shows you, you can copy the correct response almost immediately. You don't need all those clumsy trials and errors. And Bandura himself put it perfectly. He said, much of human learning is not shaped by its consequences, but is more efficiently learned directly from a model. Basically, he's saying that for a lot of what we learn, just watching an expert is a way faster shortcut than trying to figure it all out on our own. Now, the classic proof for this, the famous or maybe infamous Bobo doll study. In it, kids who watched a film of an adult being aggressive with a doll were way more likely to copy that same aggressive behavior. And here's the kicker. If they saw the adult in the film get praised for it, they were even more likely to do it. They learned what pays off just by watching. It's a powerful idea.
So how does this imitation thing actually work? What are the steps? Well, Bandura broke it down into 4 essential phases. Okay, it all starts with the attentional phase. I mean, it's obvious, right? You got to pay attention to the model. Then comes the retention phase. You have to actually remember what you saw. You're rehearsing it in your mind. Third, you've got the reproduction phase. This is where the rubber meets the road. You actually try to do the thing. And finally, and this is so important, is the motivational phase. You need a reason to imitate the behavior. Without that motivation, the learning just stops. All right, now let's switch gears a little. We've talked about learning from others, but what about learning to guide yourself? That's where we bring in Meichenbaum's self-talk method. He came up with this idea of self-regulation. And what is that? It's basically the process of observing your own behavior, judging it against your own standards, and then either reinforcing it or punishing yourself. You're between your own coach, your own model. This whole thing is also called cognitive behavior modification, and it's a really cool idea. It's all about using your own self-talk, that little voice in your head, as a tool for self-instruction to actually change how you behave. Meichenbaum actually laid out 5 steps for this. First, an adult models a task while talking out loud. Then,
The child does it while the adult gives instructions. Then the child does it while talking themselves through it out loud. See the pattern? Next, they just whisper the instructions. And finally, it becomes totally internal. They're just using private speech to guide themselves. It's this beautiful, gradual handover from an external guide to your own inner voice.
And he even gave us a script for this self-talk. These 4 questions are so simple but so powerful. What is my problem? What is my plan? Am I using my plan? How did I do? Just by asking yourself these, you can take charge of your own learning on pretty much any task.
So let's zoom out and look at the big picture. We've talked Bandura, we've talked Meichenbaum. So why does all this matter? What's the bottom line?
Well, look, like any theory, it's not perfect. It has strengths and limitations. On the plus side, its principles are really well established, and they are super useful for things like changing observable behavior in a classroom. But on the other hand, a limitation is that it focuses a lot less on the stuff you can't see, like deep thinking and complex problem solving.
But here's the most crucial point, the real takeaway. Social learning theory acts as a vital bridge. It connects the old-school behavioral ideas, all that stuff about rewards and punishment, to the more modern cognitive side, which is all about our thoughts and feelings. It showed us that learning isn't just a simple reaction. It's this deep social and cognitive process.
So, I want to leave you with one last question to think about. We are surrounded, constantly surrounded by models. They're in our families, at our jobs, and all over our social media feeds. So the question is, who are the models, the positive ones and the negative ones, who are shaping your learning right now?